All right, Warriors fans, let's dive straight into what's been one of the wildest stretches of the offseason for Golden State. There's so many moving pieces right now, and it feels like every time you think things are about to calm down, a new storyline pops up that could completely change the direction of this team. We're talking about Jonathan Kuminga's contract situation. We're talking about Josh Giddey's deal setting the market. And on top of that, Lauri Markkanen putting on a show in international play that has the entire NBA world paying attention. When you put all of these threads together, you start to see the pressure building on the front office to make the right moves, because this year isn't just another year for the Warriors. It's a season that could define the final chapter of Stephen Curry's prime. Now, let's start with Markkanen, because what he's been doing with Finland in Eurobasket is eye-opening. He isn't just scoring the ball. He's leading a team that doesn't exactly have a deep roster, and he's dragging them further than anyone expected. That kind of performance builds momentum, and momentum matters when you transition back into the NBA. For a guy like Markkanen, who already broke out in Utah, this could be the kind of confidence boost that pushes him into another level. The Jazz, though, are in a tricky spot. They're still not looking like a team ready to compete for a title. They've got young talent, they've got draft picks, but they're not contending right now. So the big question is, does Danny Ainge really want to hold on to a player like Markkanen, who's 28 years old, already established, and doesn't perfectly fit the timeline of a team that's clearly still rebuilding? If Utah decides to make him available at the trade deadline, the Warriors are a team that could realistically throw their hat in the ring. Imagine this scenario. Kuminga is locked into a deal without that tricky team option hanging over negotiations. Moses Moody is added in as part of the package. Maybe even Buddy Hield to match some money, and suddenly Golden State has a legitimate offer to bring in Markkanen. The Jazz would demand draft picks. Of course they would, because Ainge always wants to stockpile picks. But for a Warriors squad that's firmly in win-now mode, that could be the kind of swing worth taking. The fit makes sense. Markkanen can stretch the floor, he can rebound, he can complement Curry and Draymond Green, and he can give the Warriors that scoring punch they've been missing from the forward spot since Kevin Durant left. But here's where things get complicated. Kuminga's future. The Warriors and Kuminga are still at a standstill over his contract, and that's bleeding into everything else the team is trying to do. Kuminga knows his value. He's seen what Giddey just got. He's seen how other young players around the league are cashing in, and he wants his bag. The Warriors are trying to hold some leverage with that team option, but honestly, that's starting to backfire. Other free agents the team wants to sign are sitting back, waiting to see how this plays out, and they're getting nervous. Veterans don't want to sit around wondering if the roster will be settled when training camp starts. They want stability, and they want to know what role they're walking into. Take Horford, for example. At 39 years old, he's thinking carefully about how he wants to spend the last years of his career. He's been linked to Golden State, and he makes perfect sense as that stretch four who can also defend, pass, and bring leadership. But he doesn't have time to waste waiting on the Kuminga situation to resolve. He's already considering retirement, and if the Warriors don't act quickly, they could lose him to another team or lose him altogether. Same with Malcolm Brogdon, who's on the Timberwolves' radar and has caught interest from Knicks. Seth Curry and DeAnthony Melton are also options, but they're not going to wait around forever. Every day, the Kuminga talks drag on. The Warriors risk losing depth that they absolutely need if they want to compete with teams like the Thunder, Pacers, and Rockets, who have already built rosters stacked with contributors from top to bottom. That's the reality of the modern NBA. Depth isn't just a luxury anymore. It's essential. We've seen too many playoff series swing because a bench unit came in and flipped momentum. The days of riding just 6 or 7 players deep through the postseason are over. Golden State needs 12 guys who can step on the floor and contribute without the level dropping. And that's why this contract stalemate is so frustrating. By holding on to that team option with Kuminga, they're basically freezing the rest of their offseason. The smarter move might just be to take it out, give him the deal, and either keep him long-term or move him with more value at the trade deadline. Because no team wants to trade for a rental unless they're desperate, and that hurts the Warriors' leverage if they decide to move him later. Kuminga himself is such an interesting case. He's proven he can contribute to a championship team. Remember, he won a ring as a rookie, and while he wasn't a centerpiece, that experience still means something. He's shown flashes of being much more than a role player, and you can tell he wants to be the cornerstone somewhere, even if that place isn't Golden State. On the Warriors, he's more likely to be a strong piece of the puzzle rather than the focal point, and that's fine. But for him personally, that might not be what he wants. And that's why the Warriors have to be smart here. Lock him into a deal without the option, give themselves more flexibility, and then they can decide later whether he's part of the long-term picture or whether he becomes the key piece in a blockbuster trade. And that's where Markkanen comes back into play. If Utah is sitting near the bottom of the West at the deadline, there's no reason for them to cling to a player who won't be in his prime by the time the rest of their young guys are ready to win. They'll move him, and when they do, the Warriors have the right mix of young talent and future picks to make an offer. A front court of Draymond, Markkanen, and maybe Horford off the bench would be absolutely lethal, giving the Warriors size, shooting, and experience. Add in the steady hand of Brogdon in the backcourt rotation, and suddenly this roster starts to look like a group that could genuinely compete for another championship. But all of that hinges on one thing: ending this deadlock with Kuminga. Until that deal is resolved, nothing else can fall into place. Free agents won't commit, trade packages can't be finalized, and the front office is stuck in neutral. For a team with Curry still playing at an All-NBA level, that's not acceptable. The Warriors can't afford another wasted season hovering in the play-in tournament. They've got to push the chips in, make the bold decisions, and maximize what's left of their dynasty window. All right, so let's keep rolling with this conversation because the stakes only get higher the deeper we look at Golden State's situation. When you step back, you can see just how delicate the balance is right now. On one side, you've got a front office that WWS exactly what his peers are getting paid and doesn't want to be shortchanged. And while this back and forth plays out, the entire roster build is basically frozen, leaving the Warriors vulnerable at a time when the Western Conference is absolutely loaded. Think about how much the league has shifted in just the past couple of seasons. Teams like Oklahoma City and Indiana showed everyone that depth, speed, and versatility can carry you into the postseason, even when you don't have a fully developed superstar core. Houston has quietly built a bench stacked with energy guys who can play at a high level on both ends of the floor. Denver is still Denver with Jokic controlling everything, and Minnesota's front court is giving teams nightmares. Golden State cannot afford to walk into this kind of conference with a thin roster and shaky chemistry. They don't have the margin for error they once did when their talent level was far beyond everyone else's. Now it's about matchups, rotations, and making sure the 12th man can step in and deliver quality minutes. That's why losing free agents because of hesitation with Kuminga's deal would be such a crushing blow. Take Malcolm Brogdon again as an example. He's the type of player who thrives in Golden State's system. Smart, unselfish, able to play both on and off the ball, and he brings size to the backcourt. But he's already drawing serious interest from other teams who won't sit around waiting. The same goes for Seth Curry, who would be a natural fit with his shooting and obvious family ties, or DeAnthony Melton, who could give this team a defensive spark off the bench. And then there's Al Horford, who is a unique case because of his age. At 39, he's not someone you could drag through a long summer of uncertainty. He wants clarity, and if Golden State can't give it to him, he might just call it a career or commit to a different contender. Meanwhile, Kuminga's leverage grows every single day this drags on. He's not just another young player on the rise. He's someone with championship experience, someone who's shown flashes of being able to take over games, and someone who could easily become the face of another franchise if given the opportunity. The Warriors are trying to hold that team option as a safety net, but honestly, it's starting to feel more like a roadblock than a safeguard. Removing it would not only make Kuminga happy, but would also send a clear message to the rest of the league and to free agents that Golden State is serious about getting business done and building a roster ready to compete right now. And that brings us back to the idea of patience versus urgency. Normally, you'd say patience is a virtue in the NBA. You wait for the right trade, you let the market develop, you don't rush into deals that could handicap your future. But with Stephen Curry still playing at an MVP level, with Draymond Green still capable of being the defensive heartbeat of a contender, and with the clock ticking on the core that built this dynasty, urgency has to be the priority. There's no point in preserving cap flexibility for 3 years down the road if you waste what might be the last true title window of the Curry era. Lauri Markkanen could be the perfect example of why patience might actually be rewarded in this case, though. If Utah sputters and decides to move on from him, Golden State would be in a prime position to strike, but only if they've already cleaned up their internal business. They can't sit at the deadline still arguing over Kuminga's contract details and then expect to jump into the sweepstakes for a player like Markkanen. Ainge will want a clear, straightforward offer, and that requires having your own roster and salary structure set ahead of time. Another thing to remember is how much of an impact chemistry has on this team. The Warriors are built on ball movement, trust, and continuity. When a roster is unsettled, when guys don't know their roles, and when free agents aren't sure if they'll even be signed, that chemistry starts to suffer. You can see it on the floor when rotations get messy or when younger players feel like they're just being dangled as trade bait. For a system that thrives on everyone buying in, that's a dangerous place to be. Resolving Kuminga's deal isn't just about money. It's about creating stability so that everyone else can lock in and prepare for the grind of the season. And let's be real, the front office has been here before. They've had to make tough calls on young talent versus proven stars. They've had to balance building for the future with maximizing the present. But the difference now is that Curry is older, the league is deeper, and the margin for error is razor thin. If they misstep here, it's not just one wasted season. It could be the end of their run as true contenders. That's why every decision feels so magnified. You also can't ignore the psychological factor. Other teams are watching how Golden State handles Kuminga. If they treat him like an expendable piece, it could hurt their reputation with future free agents and young players who might hesitate to sign there. On the flip side, if they show faith in him and still manage to flip him later for a star like Markkanen, they come out looking like a team that knows how to handle its business. Perception matters in this league, maybe more than ever. So the Warriors are walking a fine line. They've got to act decisively. They've got to communicate clearly, and they've got to show both their current players and potential future players that they're serious about winning now. Removing the option from Kuminga's deal could be the domino that sets everything else in motion. The free agent signings, the trade possibilities, the roster depth, and ultimately, the chance to bring another banner to Chase Center. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. In a shocking twist that has sent the basketball world into a frenzy, whispers have turned into near certainty. Al Horford is reportedly headed to the Golden State Warriors. Sources close to the team suggest that the seasoned big man could be the final piece in what might be a title-winning puzzle for the reigning Western Conference powerhouses. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the rumor alone has sparked heated debates across social media and sports talk shows alike. Horford, a veteran known for his defensive intelligence, passing ability, and calm presence on the court, has long been admired for his ability to anchor both ends of the floor. Over the years, he has collected a reputation not just as a reliable scorer, but as a floor general who elevates the performance of everyone around him. The possibility of him donning a Warriors jersey has fans imagining a lineup that blends Horford's old-school savvy with Golden State's high-octane shooting and pace. Analysts are already speculating how he might fit alongside the likes of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And the consensus seems to be that his versatility could be the exact ingredient the team has been missing. Insiders hint that Golden State has been quietly maneuvering behind the scenes, exploring trade options and contract negotiations, all in the hope of landing Horford without disrupting the core of their championship-caliber roster. If the deal goes through, it would not only mark a major splash for the Warriors, but also signify a strategic shift toward a more balanced, experienced lineup that could handle the grueling playoffs with poise. The timing is intriguing as well. Just as rival teams are gearing up for the new season, the Warriors might have secured a veteran who can tip the scales in their favor in close games and high-pressure situations. While skeptics caution that the report is still in the rumor stage, the buzz is undeniable. Fans are flooding forums with hypothetical starting fives, imagining Horford's impact on pick-and-roll situations, defensive rotations, and late-game scenarios. One thing is certain. The possibility of Al Horford joining Golden State has electrified the NBA community, leaving pundits and supporters alike glued to any sign that could confirm this blockbuster move. Could this be the final piece to a Warriors championship puzzle? Only time will tell, but for now, the basketball world is buzzing with excitement and speculation. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.